Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the best place on the internet for horror-themed fonts and typefaces. And today is Horror Font Friday. So, this week I had done a font. We'll take a look at it. Today we're looking at a billing block. Some mid-century billing blocks. Nowadays you see them, they're like super condensed, but back then they were, I think, a little more fun in the mid-century. And so I was trying to redo Monster Scum, and that was going to be my original font. It got really messy. So that's not happening today. And I'm probably not going to release this today because like I have a different idea for how to kind of what I want to do. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm thinking of kind of building out like groups of typefaces that can work together. So a billing block. And I even wrote the word here so I wouldn't forget it because I kept waking up and calling it a credit block. And that was a mental block. But anyway, let's get started. This should be pretty easy. This comes from, I can't remember the name of the movie. It's something astronaut. I just checked. It's called Sergeant Deadhead. That's nothing astronaut at all. The movie we've got going on in the background today is The Curse of Frankenstein with Peter Cushing. I think it's one of my favorites of the Hammer Frankenstein films. And we're just going to put all these on the table. I'm going to assume that we probably are going to have pretty much every letter. I'll bet we're going to be shy, like obviously an X and a Z. But I'm seeing J's and K's, which is a really good sign. I also like that all these are caps. Made it make more sense. I have a couple other pieces of lettering that I've been working on in the background, which are Q. Probably not gonna have a Q. One of them's like a kind of an alternate typewriter font, kind of like Courier, and yawn. Sorry, it's early. I don't remember what the other one is. I'm too out of it. But this is going to be pretty easy. This is going to be like the alphabet's pretty much done, and we're just going to move right on in to everything that comes after that, which should be pretty interesting because, like I said, it's a billing block. We're going to be rushing pretty quick. And I think that this will be quite useful. May only do 2 alternate versions for this because with this type of lettering, it doesn't necessarily get used as, whoops. Probably not going to be using it for headlines and stuff. I thought I had preset the guides, because last night I was, I guess yesterday I kind of came to terms with the fact that there was no way that the monster scum was going to be ready. Once I kind of went down the path of, oh, this ligature it just started to get really messy really fast. And I started building too many ligatures, and I was like, this font just needs kind of rethought out. And that's kind of where it's at. I'm going to go through and just mess with the sizes of all these just a tiny bit. So Q, X, and Z is pretty much all we have to build. Those are super simple letters to build. I'm going to make the X out of 2 Y's. I'm going to need an E, an N, an O, and an R. And that's the Eeyore that we're going to use to make the Q, X, and Z. So first things first, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to cut that. Whoops. We are going to reflect those. Okay. I don't know if yeah, I did. Curse of Frankenstein. I don't know if I mentioned what we're watching today. I hope you're having a grand week. This week's actually pretty fun because I'm recording this much closer to Friday. It's currently Thursday. At around almost 6 in the morning. So whoops. Let's lock those guides. See, I even went through the trouble. I don't know if I call it trouble, but went through the fun of making sure that my guides were not didn't have the letters on those layers. We'll go ahead and curve that just to unify it there. I have a friend who keeps trying to tell me that I should do an online course for making fonts, but I don't know that I'm not sure if people would want to learn my process or not. I'm in a Slack group with some other type designers, so maybe I'll reach out to some of them and see. Maybe I'll run the Zoom call one week and be like, hey, let's run through this and let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna move this one up a little bit. And that one up a little bit also. And I feel like for the most part, no, this has a pretty steady. No, it's got the rule of the A, B, and lower, and it's okay. So the X coming a little bit up, I feel like that is good. That's in the rule book of what is currently there. I used 2 Ys, which will give it a little bit of variation. That Z feels a little thin on the middle, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter. What do you feel about that Q? That drops a little bit too far for you? Condense it just a little bit. And because we condensed it, we got to change the rounding here. All right, that took forever. Just kidding. Let's get into numbers. I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, put together my first set of alphabet, and then we'll get started on the numbers. All right, I also took a bite of a sandwich, so if at one point I unpause this and there's a giant piece of sandwich stuck in my beard, that would be why. We called this one DS. Oh, hold on. I forgot to save it in the proper folder. So let the beach ball go. We called it DS Deadhead for Private Deadhead. That's just going to be the working title. $2.87. Oh. 2.85 seems like the way to go. All right. The time is currently 6:01. We've got a hard stop at 7, so no pumpkins today. Group, this is going to go pretty quick. The O is going to get condensed to function properly as that 0 and actually probably get a little bit slimmer as well. Didn't even feel the need to bother with that. Meaning like, whoops, duplicating the 1 and all that dance that usually happens there. Uh-oh. Group. I had done a font a couple months ago. I think it was called Cat People, from the movie Cat People, or from a movie called something similar to Cat People. I don't think I ever actually came up with a proper name for that font, but See? That guide layer again. Oh, that guide layer. Just pulling that out a little bit just to balance the two. This C is going to come down just in the tiniest. And there's a couple issues with this C. I was gonna say because it comes in so much. This part's a little weird. Not this part, but this letter. This number. Sorry. It's weird because it doesn't feel like that should work, yet at the same time that follows the system correctly. I don't know, man. Your guess is as good as mine. I think we're going to leave it for right now. It feels weird to me, but you also got to remember that we're building text for a building block. Whoops. In a lot of these because this font is being made for a building block, it would probably be safe to say that a lot of these characters that we're going to include here don't even really need to be included. But we're going to make them anyway, because even though it's made for a building block, doesn't necessarily mean that's all that it will be used for. Sorry, borrowing the C. We're going to go ahead and destroy this 5 just to get it smoothed out a little better. I think that C helped, but it didn't fully give us the experience we wanted. That needs to come in a bit. That needs to tuck in a little right there. Just clean up in the slightest. There we go. That side just felt like it was out a little too far. That's a pretty good looking 5. What do you think? You happy with that? Too bad. Now this 6, because our rule also has, you know, that coming down so much like it did in the 3, that's going to affect the 6 and the 9 as well. I feel like that side might be coming out a little too far. We're going to go ahead and tie those together and do the same thing we did with the 5. Like this side just needs to tuck in a little bit. And that side just needs to, whoa, not come out that far. I was just trying to round it a little bit better. And we're also going to extend it a little bit. And we're going to transform, reflect those two. We're not going to hand draw our 8 this week because and actually, this is interesting. To help it look a little less like an S, we're going to do it from a reversed S. And we're not hand drawing it because we're going to I want the waist to be higher. We're not hand drawing it because the system for this piece of lettering. And ultimately, if we want to talk about what I recorded the other day that was initially supposed to come out today but didn't, the main reason for that is because the system did not work. I was getting, I don't know, I think I had probably drawn easily maybe almost 50 ligatures, and I was like, it needs more. The letters got a lot better, but the normal letters didn't look good next to each other in the first place, and that was kind of where we went off track. And I was like, there's no way I would feel comfortable releasing this. So yesterday, I went outside, mowed the lawn, and was like, all right, how can I solve this problem? And then I was like, Nick, you don't have to release these every week. Like, you can go less often. You know, there's other ways to do it. And then I was thinking, I was like, you know, I think, I don't remember if I was talking about this with Dustin. Maybe not, because I've seen other people do this. But like, essentially a group of fonts that actually work. Because I was like, well, I need to get back into making posters and, you know, this and that. And I was like, you know, what if I made a set that was kind of made tailored for making posters or making a comic, or, you know, and you always see the, like, oh, this is the Ultimo comic pack. And I'm not saying that I can do it better than anybody who's ever done it. I'm just saying, I guess, that I could also do it. $77. How'd I end up with 2 7s? So this 9, the bottom's a little pinched. That looks like it might feel a little bit better. Did I increase the height of that? Because it doesn't really feel like it. It's a little too much. All right. Where do we go from here? I always forget. Just kidding. I know where we're going. We are going to go into our initial circle characters. Group that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That's going to be our 5. I'm always saying how, like, oh, well, when you borrow the 5, it's not flattened out. But this week, we merged it. So, right, so using our O's to make our initial brackets. That. This. I keep forgetting what day it is because Memorial Day in here in the States kind of threw my week off a little bit. Not having a Monday to come in. That could have been another part of the reason why the font wasn't done. That being said, I don't think I would have been able to finish it by Sunday or Saturday because it just got too far off the rails. And then it made me think like, well, is this part of the reason why this didn't get done originally? But it also gave me an interesting perspective of thinking about kind of a better way to construct ligatures. And I had seen an image of another font in a specimen book, and it used like these partial lockup characters. So like it had an H that was cut. Normally I'd go up a little bit with that, but I feel like for this type system it has to work in a different way. Don't hold your breath when you're doing that. This is going to go in a little bit just to differentiate it from the B. What was I just talking about? That's going to just be spread a little bit. All right, this, check this out. Don't do this. That gave us a more even center. See that? Made these a little smaller this time. That might be the first time I actually almost properly made the registered and copyright symbols. Go ahead and group those. The @ symbol here is going to be a little weird. I don't think this is going to look very good. Oh, that was too much. All right. Let's delete that. And we're going to go ahead and bring this in about that far. And this is going to help us rethink how small the A in the center should be. Not too bad. I want it to feel a little more evenly spaced. And I'm also thinking of making it a little italic, because that's how they normally are in the wild. That side's coming in a bit. Cutting this. There we go. That is our @ symbol group. I know those are normally a little bit taller than the other letters, but I want it to remain the same proper height. Oh, here we are. Favorite time. It's the most... Group that is going to be our M dash, N dash, no dash. And our underscore is going to tuck over here. Bring these all in a little bit. I'm going to duplicate those, because I feel like I may need those later to be that size. Whoops. I say that because I'm thinking preemptively of my dagger and double dagger characters. I feel like, depending on how thin we make the dagger, will determine kind of how proper it looks in this setting. That needs to come down. Sorry. Holy moly. We've been at this for a bit at this point. What's the clock saying? 35 minutes? Holy moly. Maybe we will turn into a pumpkin. No. We'll just end and then start the video again. It'll be way bright where we're at here. Alright. This has a bunch of equals because now we're breaking into where we're just talking about. Ungroup that. That feels weird. Did that go? It did. Good thing I caught that. I was looking away. I would have made this whole stack jump down a little bit. Over some foolishness. Alright, so that is going to get a little thinner. 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 Delete. I want this to be -20. And this... You know what? I don't. I want it to be closer to 10. And my reasoning for that is because when I get to the O, I also want them to extend a little further beyond the baseline. When I get to my O, and I want that to be super tall. When I get to the O slash, I don't want my fraction to be less of an angle than my slashes. I just, that's might just be a me thing, but I feel like that character is usually a little different. And now look, so let's go ahead and delete those. Because this looks like it's going to be great. Group. Delete that. This and tuck it back in a little bit. Duplicate it. And go in for our number sign. Pull those a little bit. I need that to go up. I want it to kind of be a little bit more closer to a square than something oblong in the center. Group that is our number sign. It's an interesting dollar sign here. I would do a little bit of touch up on the hoops from squeezing it in, but I feel like I'm not going to want to do that when I get to the C. Oh, such a terrible way of thinking, but so I'm not going to do it at the S. Group that. Now this is what I was talking about. So I didn't want this, which will become the fraction, to be less of an angle. I wanted it to have some sort of differentiation. Whoops. How does that feel for a percent sign to you? It feels a little left heavy to me. I'm not convinced that that's a problem. watch this. So, oh wait, I know what I want to do. I'm gonna cut this. And that is our degree. Let's go ahead and do punctuation real quick. Whoops, OG. I would like a squared off period that is going to not be duplicated as two separate shapes. Whoops, this. Feels like television for some reason, that shape. I thought I was going to do... So I used to do a thing in the past a lot where I would go back into... Whoa. I didn't realize these were so angled. Where I would go and kind of mess with the double quote. Let's make that a little tad bit bigger than the... Supposed to be a rainy weekend for estate sales. Apparently, the sale on Friday doesn't start till like 11. And it's very far away. So... that means we're going to go on Saturday. But Saturday it's supposed to be rainy. So usually the hold table for those sales is outside. But during rainy days they change it up, obviously. But I think what I'm going to do is bring extra bags. And especially because it's going to be a day 2. Which I like a day 2 or even a day 3. You can get better prices. Plus I look for a lot of ephemera. So I'm not necessarily like trucking along looking for the most expensive thing to resell. You know, I'm looking for, oh my God, it's a newspaper from 1986 and it has an ad for movies in it, you know. Like, it's got a Sears ad with a really cool picture of an answering machine, all line art, beautiful stuff. and it's not even fully chewed up. It's like there was some fancy glassware wrapped in it, but I'm leaving the glassware. That's somebody else's situation. One time at a flea market, I had purchased a newspaper. From a lady who had a booth there, and I think I bought it for like $5, which I don't know if that's too expensive or not, but it was from like 1923, I want to say, and it was like a full, might have even been like 2 full papers, and she was like, well, I was just using them for wrapping, because I was like, how much do you want for this newspaper? And I was pretty excited. She's like, I didn't even think anybody would want that. I'm like, oh. And I think I did make a font from one of the ads in it too, which is also pretty funny. Probably extremely funny if you're selling at a flea market, not expecting to some weird old me to come along and give you $5 for the paper that you're trying to wrap glass in. Whoops. I want to release the compound path. I want these to be a little closer. This is going to suffer the similar fate as the 5. Or was it the 2? It was the 2. Oh, look at this. I want to get rid of that one. Group that. That also needed to come in a little bit and probably widen back out a little bit. All right, we freehanded these like we always do. Whoops. Release compound path. Group. So what do you think about I'm just thinking about this in my head. I'm like, do you think it makes it more versatile or useful completing out the set for a typeface that probably is meant to type a lot less or do a lot less than we're about to make it do. I'm just going to grab all this. Actually, not all this. We're going to run through our multilinguals and our smalls together at once, because it's just easier that way. See, this is where let's turn off the guides and take a look at what's happening here. So this gets a little weird. I'm going to smooth that out a lot because I don't like how it feels taller. I've seen that character kind of dealt with in a lot of different ways. I'm not really sure. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the way I just did it is not the best. I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks there, but sometimes you just got to make a decision and stick to it. Otherwise, nothing will get done. Also had recently been thinking about other characters to add. I don't know if I talked about this, but I had a person inquire about a font that I had made called Hola Cuervo, and I made this font a long time ago. Like, it's in my early group of fonts, and it was never finished according to like having title cards and stuff. And they had reached out because they were like, hey, I'm looking at this font, but it doesn't really have any title cards. Like, what can it do? And I was like, oh, thanks for reaching out, you know? And I was like, well, let me go in and like finish this font so it can do more. And I started digging into it, and I was like, holy crap, it had probably the most language support I've ever put into a font. It had characters that I don't even draw anymore. Or, you know, like, it was like some sort of experiment when I did it. And I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Maybe I should do some of these again, you know, do another font that's as built up as this. This is where that will fall. We're going to group this. I'm going to try one thing. Hold on. No, I did not mean to. I like that one better. All right. Sorry about all that. I just had to see. And that is our ASCII tilde. Oh, Smalls. Yes, Smalls. Who can forget? Group that one. Rotate. Rotate. Cut to the T. And these are all gonna fit in that height. And yeah, let's just do the diacritics right now. It looks like we finished at a pretty good time. Holy crap. Before you start jawing on, Nick, look at that. You got 4 minutes coming in. Two dots, 1 dot. Rotate this up. And down, and rotate. I heard my phone beep. I'm not crazy. I'm just eager. Whoops. Diacritics even. All right. So coming in right under an hour. That was great. This isn't going to be out today, but it will be coming soon in a new partial series of kind of different pieces of lettering. You can see I have another one. I'm probably not going to do that one next week. We'll do something different next week. But that is it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will see you